Welcome to ChartsToday-Energy. My name's David Linton, and today's edition for Tuesday, the 16th of October, comes to you from London. And we can see this morning the energy mix falling quite heavily. Just taking a look at the macro, first of all, the euro is looking a little bit stronger this morning up against the dollar. The dollar is showing still its weakness. It's below the chart on the 60-minute chart with a couple of downside targets. So we're seeing short-term weakness, medium-term neutral on the dollar, and against the yen, which is where we normally get a heads up on the dollar, starting to see a little bit of a turn. This is the place to watch for the dollar strengthening first. Sterling sitting quite strong this morning at 131.80 against the dollar. Brexit fears not really hitting sterling here. Got good upside targets, so sterling still looking strong, despite what press is saying. Against the euro, we are still on short-term bearish mode, but looks like we're recovering here as well. Against the Swiss franc, just as another measure on sterling, starting to look more and more bullish on the medium term. US stock markets were down yesterday, but the futures suggest they will open up today. European stock markets relatively flat this morning. Asia was down, and we're seeing gold looking quite strong. As we see that a flight to safety. Taking a look at the energy mix, we start by looking at crude oil. This is all data from Thomson Reuters Icon, of course. So we're looking here at Brent crude. This is my weekly chart, looking very strong on the long-term trends. We do have this massive upside target of 122. $122 on Brent, but we'd need to make a new high above the recent high of sort of $86 to activate that. We do have this 94 target sitting here activated, but for the moment we are seeing a pullback and a sell-off, and we are short-term bearish below the cloud. And we see this morning how we've just deteriorated away. I think the market was expecting crude to jump on the Saudi situation, but that looks like it's being tempered a little bit. We do have downside targets 78.20, 76.90, so some 2% lower, 1.5% lower on the medium chart. This is the 1-minute chart. If you're trading crude, this is the chart to keep an eye on for any new price targets kicking in. But we're making new lows this morning as we speak. Correlation with the dollar on the 60-minute relatively flat, on the daily also relatively flat. WTI also falling away, and so as we'd expect, looking quite similar. We've got downside target of 68.70 on WTIs. That's some 3% lower, and we've got a medium-term target some 2% lower. So we are just seeing a bit of a short-term deterioration here, coming back to the medium-term support level. The one bright spot in energy at the moment is US nat gas, sitting at $3.27, continuing to make new 9-month highs. Bullish on the all time frames, really, on the weekly, the daily, and the 60-minute chart. Correlated negatively with the dollar. If we want to take a look at that correlation with crude oil, we see here quite strongly correlated on the daily chart, but we've just neutrally correlated on the 60-minute chart. Here we see this morning we have pulled away a bit. We are making new lows, but we've got these targets here: 330, 336, 336. Two targets pointing to 336, suggesting some 2.5% further upside. 334 here, and then the big one, 375, 347. So we are seeing big upside target potential on US nat gas. It's the one bright spot, up nearly 1% this morning. Looking at heating oil, looking strong in the medium term, but following crude lower, of course, as well. And RBOB we see here, we're also just pushing lower. Looking at European products, first of all, looking at coal falling away some 0.5% lower, sitting at 94.30 on API2. This is the ICE contract. If you're running on your Trayport screen, you'll have more data showing up in your charts, and that will probably be giving you some better targets. We do see how these downside targets were given and met. The upside target was exceeded, but we're awaiting new targets. The long-term chart, we are seeing targets as 105, 111, so still looking quite good. Correlation with crude just decreasing a little bit, still strongly correlated on the daily chart, of course. So medium term still bullish, short term bearish, along with the energy mix. We're just seeing that fall away this morning. Emissions down 1.6% this morning. This is the ICE contract, December contract. We've got downside targets of 1713, 1755, and 1730 not yet activated. So it's anywhere between 3, 4, 5, and 6% downside potential showing up in the emissions contract here. Really important. If we take out that September low, then that would be pretty bearish. And it is starting to look a little bit like a descending triangle. Quite a big top showing up in the weekly pattern here. Strong correlation with crude on that 60-minute chart. Making the lower low, though, that's a little bit scary for emissions. Taking a look at European gas, MBP down 1.7% this morning. This is on the ICE contract, of course. Your OTC data on Trayport will probably be giving you slightly different targets. We see here that MBP just deteriorating further. No clear downside targets on the short-term chart, but that's the 1-minute chart. But on the 60-minute chart, we do have this 6% downside. On the daily charts, we've got 8% downside, so 8-9%. So it does look like MBP is going to pull back further as well, and the correlation with crude is still quite strong. So if crude recovers, then we expect to see MBP recovering. TTF down some 2%, sinking lower here this morning. That's really showing up as well, and we do have a downside target here of 3.5%. Another one of 1.8 and a massive target of 9%, some 10% lower on the bigger, longer term chart. So that's quite key as well. Taking a look at power, we're seeing power down 2.4% on German power this morning on the CAL, quite significant. We've got, again, this is on icon data, so your Trayport data will possibly be giving you different targets. Downside targets on this 1-minute point and figure chart, keep an eye on these. We've got 5% downside, 3.5%, 1.8%. Any reversal to the upside, it will show up in this chart first. So that's the chart to watch for now. Of course, we're seeing other power markets following similarly. French power, we're seeing sinking lower. Not as clear a downtrend as we saw there on the German power price. Looking at some of the other products we saw here this morning, Polish power down 1.6%. So we're seeing quite a deterioration across the board. Spanish power, which has held up on the liquidity a little bit stronger, just falling away as well. That's it for today. Until tomorrow, happy charting. See you then.